What is going down, faithful? This is Brad from the SF9ers here with another offensive line film breakdown heading into week 2. We're going to be talking about 49ers offensive line versus Seattle and them coming down to Levi Stadium for the home opener into week 2 and discuss where things went right, where things went wrong. But we're going to get into it all about the 49ers offensive line and definitely how they improved on some things from the week 1 performance against Chicago. So we're going to hop in to the tape and we're going to break it down and we're going to see some things that we like. We're going to see some things that we don't like. But regardless, we're going to break it down nonetheless, and we're going to try to understand a little bit more of what's going on in these trenches. First of all, we're going to start with a nice pass blocking rep. This particular rep, you're going to get a 5-on-5 look for the offensive line up front. This was the big play to Brandon Ayuk to make a defender miss and get out into the open. But let's take a look at the offensive line up front. You're not going to get a running back to stay. In this case, the running back is Deebo Samuel, and he's going to go out for a route concept. And so you're going to get 5-on-5 football in the trenches. You can see it's a 4-man defensive line look, outside linebacker down outside of McGlinchey. This creates the 5-on-5 look. And let's go left to right. You're going to get a stunt from the defensive end and defensive tackle. Both Aaron Banks and Trent Williams are eyes up and prepared for it. As you can see, nothing too big for them. They manage that pretty well. You're going to get Brendel one-on-one. Does a pretty decent job. Even initially, you can see the first punch with his left hand doesn't hit as the defensive tackle goes for a swim move, but you could see him latch on with his right arm underneath that shoulder and is able to reposition and reinsert his hands into his chest. Exactly what you want to see for an offensive lineman. Spencer Burford as well does a phenomenal job getting man up on 97 and keeping him out of the way, as well as McGlinchey, making sure that he's not giving up any pressures either. So great opportunity for the 49ers to stop all 5 guys. And I think the 49ers have shown with this group that they are pretty solid up front as pass protectors. On this particular play, we're just going to get some beautiful zone right blocking from everyone up front. As you can see, everyone starts with their zone right step. All looks pretty similar in regards to the type of step and angle in which they are taking. The first step for offensive linemen is the most important because it's going to put them on their track. So this is where you see Mike McGlinchey and Brendel get to the second level. They get hats on bodies and they turn and use the leverage and push against the linebackers, doing a great job of walling them out. You're going to get Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks doing the same on the defensive tackles. And it's up to Ty Davis Price to pick and choose which hole he wants to run through. He decides to cut it back off of Aaron Banks' hip, which actually isn't a bad decision. And ultimately, when it's all said and done, is able to collect probably about 5 to 6 yards on the play, which you will take on any given run play, especially up the middle. This next play is a beauty, especially with all the scrutiny that Aaron Banks came under fire after the Chicago Bears game. There was a lot made of him and his ability to, or lack of ability, to get to the second level. And here you're going to get a great double-to-backer concept between Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, that ultimately creates a massive running lane for rookie Ty Davis Price to run through and create a broken tackle opportunity and churn it down for a big chunk gain. And it all starts with Trent Williams and Aaron Banks on this particular play. But it's not just Aaron Banks and Trent Williams. Brendel and Burford have big-time responsibilities to help generate this lane. As you can see, there is a shaded defensive tackle over Brendel. So it's Brendel's responsibility to chip, like you see here. As you can see, Burford takes a hard step to get his head across the defensive tackle's body, and then you see the hips swing around. This is a textbook reach block. It's a textbook double to backer concept between both Brendel and Burford. Absolutely beautiful. And you can see Brendel get to second level and create some mess. Ultimately, the linebacker trips up with Mike McGlinchey, who's doing his version of a reach block and double to backer concept with Croft on the backside. But ultimately, this play right here is made between Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Brendel, and Burford. Brandon Ayuk does a really good job with the little hezzy on the defensive end and ultimately puts the defensive end on the turf, which makes Kyle Juszczyk's job really easy. This particular play is probably my favorite example of Aaron Banks getting to second level based on some of the coaching points that we discussed last week in our offensive line breakdown. When we were looking at Aaron Banks getting to second level, he was getting beat from the linebacker going underneath when he would get on his track and get out and try to get to the linebacker. Here you're going to see Aaron Banks get out, but then break down in a sense to ensure he doesn't get beat underneath. And then when the linebacker goes over the top, he's able to engage and then ride him out and block him for about 15 yards downfield. So this is one of my favorite plays from Aaron Banks on the day. Again, especially when you look back at last week and some of the struggles that he did have against the Bears. This I look at as a correction, being able to look at the tape, identify how you lost, and figuring out how to correct it the following week. So this is a phenomenal job by Aaron Banks in this process. So this is the play that unfortunately has put a damper on this week with the Trey Lance injury. Figured we're going to talk about it a little bit just to kind of understand maybe why this happened, because I have seen people assigning blame to certain people on the offensive line, and I just want to break down what I see and maybe provide some clarity into why this might have not looked or was executed as well as it could have been. Let's start on the right side, because right here, you're just going to get an absolutely amazing block from Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey absolutely demolishes the defensive end and puts him on his back. Honestly, as an offensive lineman, you couldn't ask for a better pancake block than this from Mike McGlinchey. But there is a bit of a repercussion and domino effect that occurs, because as you can see, Mike McGlinchey blocks this guy so hard that it stops and impedes a little bit the running angle of both Aaron Banks and Trent Williams. On top of that, he lands on Jake Brendel's legs, which disengages Brendel from the block. Brendel's guy doesn't ultimately make the tackle. It looks like the linebacker that Trent Williams is trying to get upfield to. But also, this is a zone read quarterback counter Trey. So it is a gap scheme concept run with the quarterback as the primary. Again, Trey Lance is reading the defensive end, number 10. If the defensive end crashes down, Trey is going to hand the ball off, and the ball is going to go to Ray McLeod. But baked into the foundation of the play is that if the defensive end does what he does, Trey Lance keeps the ball and he gets upfield. One of the things with the counter Trey is it's a slow developing play, which is why you take a counter step if you're a running back or a quarterback in this instance. But as you can see, Trey gets up the field really fast. So it's a combination of it kind of messy with the hole being obstructed by McGlinchey's pancake, kind of compounded with Trey Lance getting up the field very quickly as well. You can see how quickly he bursts up through there. If there's a little bit more patience and Trent Williams could get to that linebacker, hopefully we're not looking at this particular outcome. And unfortunately, Trey Lance's leg gets caught up under him and he gets rolled up on. Obviously, this play has been heavily scrutinized from a lot of the fan base, but it really comes down to just being an unfortunate luck This just is one of those things that you never want to see happen. You don't anticipate it's going to happen, but it's just one of those things that you can't really avoid in football. The way he gets tackled, the way his legs under him, it's just a really tough situation. Um, I don't put blame on anyone for this particular play, especially on the offensive line. This is just a case of bad luck for the San Francisco 49ers. On this play, you're going to get the offensive line blocking 4 Seattle defensive linemen up front. You're also going to get Jimmy Garoppolo hitting Ray McCloud for a really nice gain. One of my favorite aspects of this particular play was Aaron Banks on this one. Now, Aaron Banks, he didn't really have to do a whole lot in that regard because you're going to get a little bit of a stunt on the interior of the defensive lineman, and it lands on Brendel and Banks to pick it up. So that leaves Banks uncovered. But Banks, when they tell you as an offensive lineman that you're uncovered, look for work. And that's exactly what he does. He goes and smashes the guy on Trent Williams and tosses him about 5 yards upfield. Again, just one of the smaller nuances that I really liked seeing from Aaron Banks. Uncovered. All right, that's fine. Go find some work and get some stuff done, and good play for a good gain here. This is the Ross Dwelly touchdown, and this is really just a great job by the offensive line and pass protection up front. What the Seattle Seahawks are going to do is they're going to walk 13 down into the box onto the line of scrimmage, and they're going to blitz him. So it's going to be another 5-on-5 scenario for the 49ers offensive line, but they're going to not only bring the blitz on the outside, they're going to run a stunt with 77 and 10. So it looks like 4 initially, but they walk down the safety, and so everyone's got to be on alert and playing their keys, and everyone on the left side of the line does a really good job to be able to identify the safety coming down and the stunt action up front. Banks doesn't bite. He's able to keep his eyes up. Brendel does the same, keeps his eyes up. They see the defensive end loop around. Brendel's able to peel off and pick up the defensive end to keep him off Jimmy Garoppolo just enough to allow Jimmy to complete this pass to Ross Dwelly that ultimately leads to a touchdown. Here we're going to get a nasty Trent Williams pancake block. As you can see, he's over here lined up to the left side. He is going to get to the linebacker and just ride him out, and then just plants him on his back. Vintage Trent Williams stuff here. So as we've talked about, Aaron Banks has done a pretty good job of being able to get to the second level. This particular play, he's got to do a little bit better of a job to be able to get off number 90 and be able to get on the correct track. As you can see, he takes kind of a steep angle. I'd rather see him get flatter on this and try to meet 56 a little further out. I feel like this is just an adjustment of track and where he's angling towards. So this is something that's correctable and you're going to be able to fix. This is a great job of keeping the play alive by guys like Jeff Wilson and Jawan Jennings. As you can see, it looks like a designed run to the left, and the hole closes up in a hurry, and Jeff Wilson runs into the back of Banks and Croft and Burford. He does a good job to bounce it out and ultimately turn it into a positive gain. But if you take a notice to Jawan Jennings, he does a phenomenal job of initially just going to cut off and kind of box out the defensive end. But as he sees Jeff Wilson cut it back, he does a great job of getting his hands on 52 and ultimately puts 52 on his back and creates an opportunity for Jeff Wilson to make a play on the ball. Brandon Ayuk does just enough to get on number 8. And then Mike McGlinchey does a good job to get on the linebacker and then ultimately plant the linebacker on his back. Jeff Wilson makes a great play on this one when it initially was stuffed at the point of attack. This is a great play for multiple reasons. One, you're going to get a phenomenal one-handed catch from Deebo Samuel in traffic, and then just you're going to see his ability to stay on his feet, and the entire Seattle Seahawks defense has to bring him down. But not only that, you're going to get 5-on-5 football in the trenches, and the Seattle Seahawks are going to bring a blitz with the middle linebacker up the middle. This is just a really good job by Aaron Banks and Trent Williams, because if you look at this right here, you get 3-on-2. Seattle did a good job of getting this schemed up to be like that. Brendel doesn't really see it until late, so he isn't able to peel off or pick up the middle linebacker. So Aaron Banks is able to get on 77, throw a punch, but he's got eyes on the middle linebacker. And as an offensive lineman or running back in pass protection, you're always going to take the inside threat. And so that's exactly what Banks does. He goes for the inside threat after punching 77. But Trent Williams sees that the defensive end is coming crashing around, and he does just a good enough job to get 10 off his track, and it allows Jimmy Garoppolo to find Deebo Samuel for a nice gain. Mike McGlinchey does a really good job on an island, ensuring that he doesn't get beat in pass protection either. Overall, just a solid rep with things really not being in the 49ers offensive line's favor, especially on the left side with the way the numbers played out. This particular play almost turned into Trent Williams' arguably biggest highlight of his career, because I truly believe if Trent Williams made contact on Kobe Bryant, this would have been arguably one of the most viral blocks we have ever seen. Trent Williams comes shooting out like a cannon on this wide receiver screen, and he has Kobe Bryant's in his sight, but Kobe makes a phenomenal last-minute adjustment to just miss Trent Williams and then makes the play at that. But this was so close to being an absolute viral play from Trent Williams. Here we're going to get Kyle Juszczyk running straight up the middle behind Aaron Banks for a touchdown. I think Aaron Banks does a really good job here of crashing down on the interior defensive lineman along with Jake Brendel. They do a good job of being able to get push, and he also does a good job of peeling and getting to the linebacker, so he's not be able to create any penetration. Here's another example of the San Francisco 49ers offensive line just doing excellent work in the run game, creating big holes for Jeff Wilson to get out in space and get some work done. Let's start with left to right. Mike McGlinchey is going to block out on number 53, Boye Mafe. You're going to get another double concept here between Burford and Brendel, and they do a really good job of getting solid push on Poona Ford, and Burford's able to peel off to ensure Kobe Bryant doesn't make any plays. But let's take a look at Aaron Banks, yet again getting to the second level and creating opportunities for the running back to break free. You can see he does a really good job of allowing Trent Williams to take over the block on number 99, as then he gets off and gets to the backer, gets just enough of 56 to ensure that Wilson can run right off his hip into open space. Here's an example of Aaron Banks dominating a stunt concept. You're going to get a loop action from the defensive end, and this is just better awareness by Aaron Banks to know that it's coming. He senses right off the bat, based on the tentative nature of number 77 and the way he's pulling off the block. Banks instantly snaps his head over and meets number 10 right in the face and knocks him to the turf. Just really heads up play by Aaron Banks and, of course, Trent Williams to both be able to handle this and pass it off. But Banks does a majority of the heavy lifting on this particular play. Also, too, with Burford and Brendel, you're going to get Burford sliding to the right along with Brendel. Poona Ford makes a move to the inside, but Brendel is right there to pick him up. This is good work by these two and what is expected between a center and guard combo. And then you're going to get Mike McGlinchey on an island. He does a really good job working his kick step, keeping a wide base. Again, Mike McGlinchey played a really clean game on the most part for the day and continues to improve as a pass blocker. Here, going to get Burford pulling to his left, and he's going to kick out the defensive end. They create a pretty natural hole with Trent Williams and Aaron Banks blocking down. But again, you can actually see that it's Trent Williams and Aaron Banks that in combination both make the play. If they can both get this block, you get a one-on-one scenario with Jeff Wilson and Darius Slay in the middle of the field. And he's the last line of defense, and Jeff Wilson can make him miss in this scenario, and this could be a house call. So you don't see this very often. You can see Trent Williams gets beat over the top by number 77. Typically, he is clutch on down blocks, but you can see 77 is able to slip off and flow over the top. And Banks as well isn't totally under control when he's getting to the second level, as we've discussed, and he ducks his head. I think that is the biggest mistake that he makes here. As you can see, the eyes go down. That's not how you want to hit your opponent. You want face mask up. You want to be able to see what you're hitting. And ultimately, that would lead itself to getting his head on the opposite side and not hitting him on his back. Because if you hit him on his back, you're going to see exactly what happens. You need to make sure you're getting proper leverage and you're blocking the proper parts of his body, and blocking his back in this particular instance isn't what you want to do. You want to be able to get that head across and ride him out. So actually, you get a good job from Brendel to be able to hold up his guy. McGlinchey does his job. This, I would say, falls on Trent Williams and Aaron Banks. And again, you're not going to be a perfect 100 out of 100 snaps, but this is both things that are correctable. It's not the end of the world. They'll be able to get in the lab and clean that up for sure.